I was born in the countryside just before chemicals arrived in the agriculture. My family was not, my father had to work very hard, and my grandfather had a farm at 70 kilometers from here. And so they let me there from 0 to 6 before school. I was spending a lot of time there. So probably in my subconscious, I have all the feelings of the countryside before chemicals. We had the frogs in the small river, fish also, the bull that could escape from the stable and you have to take back. And so then I came to Genoa. Genoa is a metropolis, also a small metropolis, but have no green. It was one of the first metropolis in the world, 700 years ago. And so I always miss it a little bit, when you are a child, things remain
the nostalgia
inside you. Also, if you don't remember exactly, or you remember only one part.
Yeah.
So probably for this I did a little bit of the evolution of my life. I was always going back to the countryside and find the product made with positive impulse in the agriculture and with the know-how, with the savoir-faire in artisan part. So it was my passion, we can say.
Before we started, you mentioned that just last night you remembered that it's 50 years since you first visited the Caribbean. I'd love to hear how and why that happened and where your journey went from there in terms of rum and exploration of the Caribbean.
It was this morning, because yesterday my daughter Benedetta sent me an email with the question of today. I decided I don't like to read the question before. But then this morning when I wake up a little bit tired, because yesterday was a nice long wine tasting in a fantastic place, I say, okay. And then was first time in my life, honestly, that I thought, but first time I was in Caribbean was 1975.
Wow.
So it's 50 years ago. What happens that I was in university, and the owner of Spirit SPA Ltd, that was the biggest importer in Italy, Valentine, Cointreau, Martel, Pernod, Smirnoff, Jim Beam. And my father was working in this company as general manager, and the owner, a small guy, already 70 years old, without children. So he said, now I want to teach you the business. The university, why you go to university? Come here and send me first in the warehouse to move the cases. And then say, Luca, in Holland, there is somebody that is stocking rum since long time. One day rum will become famous. That time in Italy there was Bacardi, a little bit Appleton, because Appleton had already at that time a very good importer named Sofiantino. So you will be, at the time they say, the product manager of Rhum St James, St James. Okay, so I went in the back office to find the document. I started to import in the 50s, I think, St James. So I found old paper. In the old paper, they had an agreement with the medical association. Doctors say, it's very healthy to drink a grog. Now you go in jail.
Yeah.
The rum punch is very good. And that time, I remember by heart, we sold 13,559 bottles, I remember.
Okay.
And I said, but if you want to develop this brand, you have to create a sales contest and take the salesmen to Martinique. But that time, Martinique was like Patagonia, more than Patagonia. And that time, the business trip, educational, were in Champagne, Cognac, and the first trip to Scotland for whiskey was the first, an avant-garde.
Malt whiskey was probably just becoming a thing with Glenfiddich and so on, right? The
No,
distilleries
no,
were
no.
starting to...
Yeah, it was a little bit before. Started with the blend, with Ballantyne,
Sure.
Johnny Walker, G&B, and then Italy in the 70s was the first market to develop a single malt. First bottling of single malt was in 1964, not in 1864.
Yeah.
So it was Charles Gordon bottling Glenfiddich.
Yeah.
But go to Martinique. Then I was young. I was 18 years old. And the 747 just arrived 2 years or 3 years before in the Caribbean, and then start the tourism, But my manager don't know this. Martinique, but are you crazy? I insisted, and we did the contest, and we passed from 13,559 to 24,080.
Wow.
So and the third year, 36, and fourth year, 60,000. I think it was a record for St. James. So I had 18 years old to organize the trip, or 19, the trip of my salesman. The young was 30 years old, the other 50 years old, to Martinique. At that time, no internet, no TV. TV only a few hours per day. I had my information regarding Caribbean by Benito Cupari, that was the chief bartender in Michelangelo, was the last big boat, Italian boat. It was Queen Elizabeth in England, France in France, and Michelangelo and Raffaello. And they started in the 70s, because it was the line. It was instead of the plane, you went to New York with Michelangelo. But then they went to the Caribbean. And so Benito Cupari came back and said, I was in Martinique, I met Mr. Clement, I imagine, in a beach. So I was 15, 16. But no many information. So when I arrived with my 8 salesmen, I don't remember if it was 75 or 76, because probably 75 I organized the contest, and we went in 76 probably. And I arrived, the first thing was a girl, un Thibaut, deux Thibaut, trois Thibaut doudou, na 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 na. And then
You're enchanted.
The wet weather, the humidity of the Caribbean, I didn't know. And in the night, the small frog, at the time I thought was crickets. But then I discovered a frog, cree, cree, cree. With the wind passing in the palm, you are 18, 19 years old, you fell in love. So I felt in love of rum for this occasion I had in my life.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Italian rum market as it was back then? Because my understanding is that coming from the UK, we really only had Bacardi and Captain Morgan right up until this century. No one was really paying much attention to anything else. But I think Italy was very much sort of a pioneer of importing.
Yes. Italy was a market of whiskey. Before cognac, then whiskey. When I started to work, I told you I was very, very young, and I felt in St. James, so I started to be interested in rum. But rum was a niche, very niche. There was exactly Bacardi. Captain Morgan also was bottled in Italy by my family, where my father is a spirit. A little bit of Appleton's, and a small agricole rum, because we are close to France. And then they used the agricole rum to put fruit in the north of Italy under rum, like rum arrangé, but now doesn't exist anymore.
Flavored rum, like preserved.
Yeah, they put pear and then put agricole rum in area like Varese, Novara, and that area. Then what happens? At that time, Italy was a little bit communist, but at least officially, because it was with the Mercedes, but with so started a small tourism to Cuba, and then exploded the section.
Oh, so Cuban connection kind of helped.
And a very famous a bartender from Alassio, that is not far from Genoa, became friend of Fidel Castro, and he saw Havana 7 years old, at least 7 years, we can say. I don't know if are old or a month or years, but no, but it was not bad.
The one with the 7 on the bottle. Yeah,
but no, it was not bad. And so, at that moment, Cinzano was bought by a big group, English group, and started to distribute Havana Club, a little bit versus Bacardi, for Cuba Libre at that time, a small market, but they didn't import the Havana 7. So this Mr. Sandron went to China, why you don't import Havana 7? I will buy 600 bottles. So they started to do small importing of Havana Club 7 that was sold at that time was a 30,000 Italian lira. It now is 15 euros, but it was enormous price. It was like today 100 euros.
Really?
And in this yacht club in Alassio, I remember there was a wall of Havana 7 and all the big boat arriving to Alassio. Please, may I have, because it was a rare, it was not always imported.
It became like a cult product.
A cult product, and started, I want a Cuba Libre with Havana 7. But was only in Alassio, and then went to Rimini, that is in Adriatic coast, a touristic area, but not yet in Milano. And in that moment, I said, but I am in rum, but very few rum are imported. At that time, I was not thinking about the pot still rum. I was thinking, it's a pleasure that Italian understand that rum is not only Bacardi or only Cabernet, but every island make a rum and perhaps have a different cuisine, a different music. For the reason I was very young, for me whiskey was old. Was
the older generation.
Old generation with now barbs. You have a barb, but at that time barbs was for old people. The cornamusa,
The accordion. Accordion players.
No, they are pipe.
Bagpiper. Bagpiper.
Scottish.
Yeah, bagpipers.
So it was a little bit old. Caribbean was sunshine, beaches, everything. It's okay, the Caribbean style. So I said, but I think the young generation, my generation, want this product. So I start to ask to import Brugal and Barceló from Dominican Republic, Barrilito from Puerto Rico, Santa Teresa. And I remember the Brugal people say, but why you want to import my product in Italy? There is no market. I say, but no, but the future, you will see, it's sac. And in beginning, it was not so easy to have a product, but so this was already in end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, this Havana 7. And little by little, I imported Santa Teresa, Cacique, Brugal, as for once also Barcelona and Bermudez, Barrilito. Because my idea at that moment was, my work, I am a merchant, so I like that the Italian knows that rum is produced in every island. I was not thinking about the quality. And that time was a little bit before Mojito, was Cuba Libre. And then Matusalem restarted the production with Alvarez family, so I took Matusalem, I did a big success. So this was starting, and so in the 90s, now all the 50 years old guys, they were breeded with Cuba Libre and then Mojito. You know, have never drank a whiskey probably. And this was why Italy started. And a little bit is my impulse to go to find rums everywhere. And in the 90s, you have bars with 25 rums.
Yeah. So the Havana Club kind of kicked it off with the Cuban connection. And then that was why you were importing mostly Cuban-style rums from these other islands, because that was the taste and it was being mixed in a Cuba Libre?
No, my goal was not to follow something. My goal was, I want that Italian people knows rum production that is made in many different areas. So I was already importing the agricole rum. I started when I took Velier in 1983 with Balli. That was my love. The vintages, you know, say, at that time you see a bottle 1966 in a rum, there were no vintages. No? So for me it was attracting these things. And then, yes, but you know, in that time, Dominican Republic, it was a little bit, we can call Spanish style, also if it's an old classification that is not correct. But anyway, this type of rums. But it went everywhere. And in Italy, in the 90s, started the rum mania. And then, after Cuba Libre, started a little bit the sexual tourism in Cuba, so a lot of Italians went to Cuba, and Mojito arrived, and so the second wave was a Mojito. And then in 1995, I think, Demerara distiller produced the brand El Dorado. So Jesu Perso, my godfather, my love. I was the second market after UK, because Guyana was previously British Guyana, to import El Dorado. And what happens when I go with it? I say, now we have Demerara rum. A top customer was a restaurant, 2-star Michelin. Say, but no, the real Demerara, this is the commercial. It's bottled by Moon Import. It was an independent bottler. No, it was very. But this is the real one. Oh, is that one? So after 1 year, I go to Guyana, and when I saw Port Morant,
what was going on there,
and Versailles, and the Coffey and more, this was my flash regarding the difference between industrial product and artisanal product. I say, but these people have maintained these stills since 250 years, because one is at 1780, I think.
It's a
so it was at that moment that I start to think, but 1 second, before was, I show you, you can taste a Puerto Rican rum, a Dominican rum, a St. Kitts rum, that time there was a distillery in St. Kitts, a Venezuelan rum, was only to discover a world that was new only for a few brands. And also I would like to transmit the culture, I look always the environment around rum is not only
and
rum.
Guyanese culture is totally different to the Spanish islands.
But
right?
anyway, when I saw the stills at Demerara, I start to think, but how we can call a rum with the same name, a multi-column rum that you can put in the car and drive the car, and the rum coming from these old batch distillation pot stills. So in that time, I started to understand this is something that, and what I was thinking, as in whiskey, the Italians started with blended, but then they went to single malt, and then they went to Islay, and then they went to cask strength, and then I say, perhaps one day rum do the same road. So started with Cuba Libre and Mojito, and then already El Dorado was an upgrading, and go. But the confusion, my problem was, it's not easy to, that time especially, to explain what is a rum. It was a little bit as Ballantine and Johnny Walker and Macallan and Glenfiddich are in the same category, and also a private label. So not easy to understand. And so in that moment, thanks to Demerara Distillery, honestly, started my idea that then arrived 15 years later in a classification.
In case you haven't heard, this is going to be the summer of the Paloma. It's a fantastic, long tequila drink, the bedfellow of the margarita, citrusy, fresh, and incredible, vibrant pink color. If you're going to make this drink, then you're going to need this from my sponsor, Fever Tree, their pink grapefruit soda. Made with fresh, ruby red grapefruits, it adds that wonderful, sweet, sour, and slightly bitter tang to a nice Paloma. Take yourself a highball glass, fill it up with plenty of ice, add a splosh of your favorite tequila, and then top up with Fever Tree's pink grapefruit soda. Finally, and most importantly, finish with a slice of pink grapefruit. Now, let's get back to the show. So let's break down the classification. How is it you separate rum out, and how does that inform us about what it is we can expect to taste?
Yes. Rum is very flexible product. First of all, the raw material could be different. Always from sugarcane, but is a pure sugarcane juice. Could be a syrup. Could be a cooked juice, River Antoine, to make an example. Could be molasses. Could be concentration of pure sugar juice in sugar, but is 100% the sugar cane with like rapadou, other things. So first of all, we have so different, always sugar cane,
different materials,
or some are byproducts. And then the real difference, but is in everything, is to understand, to help the human being to understand the difference between an artisanal product and industrial product. There is space for everybody and everything, but my thing was how we can understand. Perhaps people don't know exactly why Macallan is a single malt, but they know that single malt is different than blended. You understand? And so, from this consideration started, how can I... So the real difference are rum made in continuous column, multi-column that produce ethanol 96%, is the rum to cure. Then you have traditional column as the Coffey Still, Foursquare, or agricole rum is made in a Creole column.
Which is a lower strength, right? It
You come out, you
more of the
got
character.
more character. You can go out at 78, 72, 81, but it's different. And you have more congeners. It's a continuous distillation, but they try to steal the quintessence, the soul of the raw material of the vegetable that is the sugar cane.
Yes.
And then you have a batch distillation that are different type of still, pot still, alembic, and other things. And when I look, I spoke, I had Charles Gordon, the owner of William Grant's, was already 75 years old, and started a friendship between me and him. And he told me the story when first in the war, bottle they launched Glenfiddich in 64. Because all the distillery of single malt today, they are still there because the big blenders bought the single malt to blend, because they, in a continuous column, whiskey lost character. So I need to give character. And so William Grant, that had Grants as blended, they had Glenfiddich and Balvenie to make the blend. I must say, but why I don't bottle my Glenfiddich? And he called it at that time pure, means only. For him, he told with this voice, no, pure was only single from one distillery malt. This is a... Then now people play a little bit, because the real difference is not it is malt or wheat or rye or grain, as you call. The real difference is batch distillation and pot still versus continuous distillation. The big difference between single malt is this one. That means an artisanal distillation to keep, to steal the soul of the raw material, you know, with the congeners. So after Charles speak with me like this in 2007-8, after some I said, but this is also rum. And I never thought, honestly, until that time, to classify. So I started, who has the pot still? This, are single malt, single rum. And I think it was very important, and it will be very important to understand this big difference.
Yeah, for sure. So really what we're talking about is what sort of base material is being used in the first place? Is it cane juice? Is it molasses? Is it some other derivative of sugar cane? Plus the distillation process, or combination of distillation processes. Could be coffee still plus pot still, right?
You can have hundreds of classification, because so the raw material, the sugar cane is organic, non-organic, volcanic soil or not. Then milling, then fermentation.
Sure.
Also fermentation is very important now. Yeah. So you can also, but who make the, you can have the best raw material, make the wild yeast fermentation, and then you go in a multi-column, you have only ethanol. So I thought, as whiskey, that the key point is the distillation, but there are so many factors.
Yeah.
So somebody told me, and the yes, surely, there are so many, every rum is different, there are different style, different things. But who make, if you think, you can have the best fermented wort, and if you make a industrial distillation, you lose everything.
I mean, like a good classification system should give you the most amount of information in the shortest amount of words, right? So if you can say this is pure single blended rum, then that tells you a molasses rum, let's say, that tells you a great deal of information about that product. You've not gone into the nitty gritty of like, well, how long is it fermented? Is it wild yeast? Is it not? What cask has it been put in? You know, all these other, what variety of sugarcane is it, etc. You've given the most amount of information in the shortest possible phrase.
Yes, but most important, as I told you before, there are difference in all. There are mainly four process: the raw material, the agriculture, the fermentation, the distillation, and the aging. In these four sectors, you have a lot of difference, you understand? So if you want to know everything about the product, you have to know about where was cultivated the sugarcane, in which way it was cut by hand or by machine, and blah, 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 and fermentation, so many things. But who make the difference? If at the end of the story you go in a multi-column, you can have the most natural fermentation, the most natural raw material, or not, you lose all these because you produce ethanol. So the key point is this one. Then that doesn't mean that you can know more about the raw material, more about the fermentation, the aging, the type of steel, but this makes the difference. And then is the difference between artisan. Today there are computer and robot also that manage the pot still, but normally when you go and you taste your job and you understand now.
Physiologically, mechanically, the pot still, whether it's operated by a robot or by hand, the physics inside that thing is going to maintain more character than a
surely because
multicolor.
Conscious, but at the end of the story, the big difference is artisanal product. Artisanal means made with human know-how, and with the goal. Practically, for me, the goal of a real master distiller is to steal the soul of a vegetal. In this case, sugarcane could be a pear, Capobila distill a pear or apricot. It's the same, the goal. If you make a mainstream product, you have to produce a lot of product. The human being have find the continuous distillation starting from coffee, with the coffee still, and then we arrive to the multi-columns that give you 96% of ethanol. You have no congeners. Congeners means esters, aldehydes, superior alcohol, acid fat. So this is the real big difference. And
you've lost the soul at that point.
Yes, you have lost the soul. You have produced a lot of spirit, but different product. I am not against this product, but I think that for the reason I am in the middle, now I am also a small producer, but I am a middleman, I am a merchant. I have to be honest versus you, that if you have a bar, and you have to be honest versus the human being that like this product. So this great difference exactly in whiskey. Single malt, blended grain whiskey, it's the same. But behind malt grain, in reality, there is the artisanal whiskey that is made in beautiful copper pot stills, and a more commercial product made in a multi-column that produce million of liters, and then also you need also savoir-faire in this area. Rum was a little bit the same. The difference is that when Coffey invented the double column, the continuous column, everybody put away the pot still and put the column, or the small distilleries maintained the pot still, and Mr. Johnny Walker or Mr. Giasterini and Brooke, they went to the small distillery to make then the blend. In the Caribbean was different, because some important distillery, as Appleton, to make an example, Mount Gay, say, 1 second, okay, now I have a coffee still, I can produce more, become a business, but perhaps it's better I maintain my pot still because I need some. So the difference is that in Scotch, you had the blenders producing grain whiskey, we can say, that buy from the small distilleries the single malt. But some distilleries in the Caribbean, they maintained the old pot stills, adding the column. So in the rum, there is in the classification also this, because are single in the sense only Foursquare. Rum come only from Foursquare, but Foursquare have a continuous and pot.
I think there's only two distilleries in Scotland that can do that. Loch Lomond and Girvan, they both have columns and pots. Everywhere else, it's one or the other, and you have to blend from more than one distillery.
But when we speak in the 70s, 80s, Girvan was not existing, and also so in that time the system was what I told you. But in Caribbean was different also from the distance. They have not a small distillery, so
So you think it was an insurance policy on the behalf of the Caribbean distillers? They thought, well, look, let's not give up the pot which has served us so well. Let's take the new technology
Exactly.
and hedge the bets, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then every island, sometimes when I started Google Earth, I was thinking, if Polifemo, Polifemo was a guy with only one eye in a Velier, then he could have the Google map. He could think, it was very tall, a giant, in a 13 jump, goes from Trinidad to Jamaica, to Cuba, zack, zack, zack. But until a few years ago, if you are in Fort-de-France, Martinique, and you want to go to Cuba, you have to pass through Caracas. That means that the English island, we can say, they have a style and they live between them. Also the flight, the airplane companies, the French, until 20 years ago, they fly only in the French island. The Spanish only in the ex-Spanish island. The English only in the English island. So Caribbean seems very close, the small island together, but they are very...
It's like different continents.
Very far,
within
different continents.
Yeah.
And so also the style of rum was developed in a different... people making agricole rum don't know nothing about a multicolumn molasses. If you go to Dominican Republic, say, pure sugarcane juice, mal de cabeza, is a headache. They don't, or the master distiller don't know, for instance, Nason, my friend Gregory Nason, that is for me the best, one of the best master distillers in the world, if never worked with a batch distillation. He say, I don't know how is that. I can learn, but I don't know. And the same, the other one don't know the Creole column. So my pleasure and my work was also to show this big difference, but understand that are different. The real are not the Spanish style, because for instance, in France, for not X, because Guadeloupe and Martin are still France. You think it's agricole rum, but the biggest production is molasses rum. Bon Mer, there are two distilleries, so it's not true. If you say French style, because I did this classification, Spanish, French, but in the 89 and 90. At that time, nobody see me because I am in Italy. And then 20 years later, somebody started. But for me, it was 20 years before, because in reality, in the ex-Spanish island, in the ex or the French island or English, there are different styles of rum. Perhaps one mainly, rum agricole is mainly, but there are also molasses rum, also column rum. And also in Jamaica, in the history, they did agricole rum, we can say pure sugarcane juice rum.
I think it's the diversity that's one of the most remarkable things about the category. And also, as you say, the close proximity and what, from an outsider's perspective, you might think to be a similarity between all these places. It's sugarcane. They're producing a spirit. It says rum on the bottle. And yet the liquid inside can be so dramatically different. And the way in which that's also tied to history and culture as well, it just opens up a whole story of this category to you.
Yeah.
How early on did you start getting engrossed in the history of the Caribbean and the reasons why these rums turned out the way they did?
Yeah, I love the history, and I studied very deeply. I can say that I am quite a good historian of Caribbean and also rum. Honestly, when I went deeply in the slaves, I stopped for 2-3 years, because it was if you read the Code Noir, that was very used, that the color is very hard. But then you have to think that the world going, and now there is this melting pot, the Caribbean culture, that developed differently depending from his history, So you still have some small sign of a pre-colonization, the Indios, the Arawaks, the Caribe, also in the food, in Marigaland, there are 2 dishes that come from the
indigenous.
From indigenous people. Then the Africa people that went there with the force, but they took their tradition also in the cuisine and in many other things, because spirit in Africa is in the medicaments. Medicaments is alcohol with herbs or something like that. And also the French people and the Spanish, they took something. And today you have a multi-ethnic culture that I adore. And if you look for the future, not you don't look at the past, because if you look at the past, there are, in every country there are something that is better to forget. But we are not angels, we are human. But if you go to the future, I adore. And today many people think Caribbean only about tourism. But Caribbean has developed in these 400 years a specific culture in art, in food, and also rum. And I love.
So we talked about sugarcane, we talked about distillation, and we've touched briefly on fermentation and the various other stages of rum production. Let's talk a little bit about maturation. In Scotland, if I'm making single malt, I have to mature it in Scotland, right? How important is it that rum is matured in the Caribbean, or even in its country of origin, or even at the distillery in where it is made?
It's very important. The originality of something is the base of a house, GI, and everything, no? Parmigiano Reggiano is in a specific region in Italy, near Reggio Emilia, Modena. Perhaps you can make a Parmigiano Reggiano in Argentina, very, very good, but will be different. So we look like, for me, originality is important, you understand? So if you are not distillery aging, you are not really original. This is, perhaps you are fantastic. It's impossible that Hampden, you can take Hampden on the moon, would be good. Because aging, you say aging, but the problem is what is inside the barrel, you know. The barrel participate in the esterification, in the aging, but depends what you put in the barrel. So a very good rum, it's impossible that in England or in Italy or in Poland become bad, but become completely different.
Yes.
So if I'm looking, I buy a Parmigiano Reggiano, I would like to eat this. The other one, I say, it's very good, but call it with another name, and I will consume also this one. It's not a problem of quality. There is another problem in rum that we have not in whiskey, is the angel share. Because the distillery aged rum have an average between 6 minimum to 12% of evaporation. In another continental weather, you have 1%, 1.5, 0.5. So this economically make a big difference, and also in the quality, because this speed in esterification give a different product. So for rum is more important than for a European product, you know.
Yeah, so just to spell that out, if we took a rum and aged it in the Caribbean, after 10 years we might only have, I don't know, what, 20% of the barrel left, 25% of the barrel left?
30%.
30%. If we take it over to Europe, even, you know, maybe leave it in the Caribbean for a year, take it to Liverpool or to France and mature it for 10 years, you'll still have well over half the barrel left, maybe 60, 70%, right? So you've got twice as much rum with the same age statement on the bottle.
3 times is the difference.
Yeah.
When I started with Capovilla, we distilled the first year rum in Marigalante.
Which I had the pleasure of visiting the distillery. Yeah.
I convinced, but also Gianni agreed with me, to take 1 barrel or 2 barrels to him in Rosà, near Bassano del Grappa, here in Italy. And we tasted 3 weeks ago. Now, after he's 18 years old, I think, it's great. But you will never say that it's great. But nothing to do with rum. And when I was younger, everybody understands the tropical aging. Now, after 18 years, it's very, very good. It's more subtle. It's more elegant, we can say, in a certain way. But it's completely different. So the first problem is if I buy Jamaican rum, I would like to have a Jamaican rum. The same rum in Patagonia could become fantastic, but it's different, okay? But secondly, this angel share make completely different the price. And today, I use this word, fog in the Caribbean. No? It's difficult also with the classification to understand for a human being that approach the rum to understand what is in front of him. It's very, very complicated. And this, excuse me, if I continue, but when I was seeing what happened to the whiskey, blended, I drink Ballantine, then I drink G&B, then I drink a single malt, then I go to Isla. In Italy, that we started before the other countries in the 90s, this process don't happen for rum. So 10 years ago, I start to say, pay attention, because today, rum. But this confusion make impossible to create this upgrading. You understand? I understand everybody. And now, thanks also a little bit to me, excuse me if I am presentuous, but it's true. Now, a lot of independent bottlers put the right information on the label, and this is the first thing, and is very good.
Yeah.
You understand? I am very happy that today is a little bit easier to understand what I am buying.
Yes.
And this is important.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, for sure. I mean, like you say, this isn't necessarily a conversation about quality. It's about transparency and honesty and stating what is in the actual bottle rather than being vague and rather than kind of bending the truth a little bit with age statements. This sort of leads us on to another topic that's become quite contentious in the rum industry, which is additives and specifically sugar. Some people will say, if I'm going to kind of defend this argument, well, rum's made from sugar. Its organoleptic properties often associated with sweet things because of the barrel in smell. People like it when rum has had a little bit of sugar put in there. It softens it for some people. What would you say to that argument?
what I say is very simple. A distilled spirit is without sugar. Drambuie, I don't think is a blended whiskey. It's a liqueur. So for me, in a spirit, the distillation is you have no sugar. Then, so I tell you my opinion. But in meantime, there were historically in different, for instance, with different techniques, aging the caramel inside. There was a tradition in the Caribbean to do this. If you have a great fermented sugarcane juice, you don't need to add nothing, you understand? And if you make a little bit more commercial product, sugar is always, we love sweet, you know, so it's easy to drink. And I understand there was also tradition regarding this in the rum business, but Macallan and sugar inside, I don't think so. I think there's also the people like the, now it depends what we want. I think the mainstream rum will be always a rum with some sugar inside, more rounded, you drink like a liqueur, easy to drink, okay. But if we speak about the top quality, if we speak about the originality, the authentic product, a spirit, the name say is a spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
So also there is necessary to be honest and transparent. There is space for everything and for everybody. At McDonald's, we never tell you that is a 3-star Michelin, but have a big space, a big market. So every product is positioning. The important is to maintain the promise to the human being. You understand? Today, the new generation, they don't care if you... But what they don't like, say, I am a star Michelin and I am McDonald's. No, you are a McDonald's, I come to eat a hamburger, I have time for there, I go. I want to go in a 2-star Michelin restaurant, I go a 2-star Michelin restaurant, and surely the fish, the eggs, everything is vegan level. You understand? So this discussion about the sugar, about the tropical aging, for me is important the transparency.
Yes.
Then there is space for everybody. And in the moment you make a GI, you have to make a GI with the original product and don't change a little bit of the GI because you have some interest to do, no? But all the GI changed. For instance, Champagne was 8,000 hectares, now is 40,000.
Bigger, yeah.
Vino del Coglio now is in the flat. So it's a little bit normal that the human being, when you produce more, you try...
Mezcal, the GI,
Mezcal.
keeps growing and growing.
But in my opinion, this is my personal opinion and what I'm doing. For instance, I sell all type of rums. I am a Brugal importer. I'm very proud to be Brugal importer, but I will never tell to anybody that Brugal has a 10% of it, 30 years old, that we have. No, yeah, we have a Dominican Republic molasses. Historically, we have a lot of barrels, so it's really aged. So you have to tell the truth.
Yeah, I guess the the problem arises when you have a rum producer who is more on the industrial side of things, claiming artisanal practices in their marketing, in their PR, in their packaging. And that, I think, can be extremely confusing for consumers who don't even really understand the basics of rum, which you've laid out in your classification system. They are swept up by the idea that this is handcrafted, multi-generational. You know, we care about our molasses, we care about this, but it's going through a multi-column still. And so it's dispelling that illusion. Would you, in an ideal world, what sort of legislation do you think would be great to have in place at an EU level? You can fold GIs into this as well if you like to. What would the sort of Gargano European legislation look like for rum in let's imagine 20 years time?
I will be a dictator. I'm joking. No, for me, rum there is the single rum, batch distillation, pot still.
Yeah.
Then there are my classification.
Yeah.
Single blended, because we have a case of Foursquare, Manguet, and others, and then you have a rum, and then agricole rum. But also agricole rum, I invented a new term, extra virgin rum, for white agricole rum made in pot still, because there is not a name.
No, yeah.
But then virgin lawyers wrote me, not
really?
to trade, but I say, okay, but it was only not to produce a product, but to, for instance, a rum.
Yeah, you're not capitalizing on it. You're just using it as an explanatory term.
No, I would like to trademark that nobody uses this name in the future.
Yeah, protect
to protect, and not for me.
Yeah, sure.
I never produce an extra virgin rum, but then they create me problem. But for instance, rum is agricole rum, but is made in batch distillation. So there is a name? No. If you are outside Martinique, you are in Thailand, you produce a pure sugar cane rum. How you call? You could not call agricole, so you have to call pure sugar cane rum juice. Blah, blah. So it's an extra virgin, easy to understand. But so this is the main classification: no sugar for the category single malt, single rum, because you go in the top and you like to stay at the same level of
Sure.
great single malt. And then you have to understand that to produce, you can make different things. You know, I'm not against if exists a rum with some sugar, but not only sugar, because there are many other things.
But do you think they should be stipulated on the bottle, additives and sugar?
Yes, but it's yes, absolutely. And you see, I did a smaller. You did a book, Rum Revolution here.
Oh, thank you for promoting it. Yeah. Turn around to face
No,
the
I'm
camera.
not promoting. I'm not a person that promotes. If I like, no, I was happy to see that also English speaking, because England is not so advanced, for my opinion, in rum,
No.
versus France or other countries.
Sure.
And see Anglo-Saxon, a young guy that went to visit all these distilleries, for me was really a satisfaction, as I was a little bit of a grandfather.
Well, certainly. I mean, thank you for paying me the compliment.
It's not a promotion.
I'll pay it right back, because you are obviously, this book would never have happened were it not for you. Really kind of pioneering.
I did
so much
some
of this.
revolution, because I was the first to put tropical aging.
Yeah.
Apart from John Vray Nephew in 1962, that I don't know why, that if John Vray Nephew that time continue to say aged 8 tropical years in today, everybody understands this, but they did only for one. I have in my.
I didn't know that.
You don't know?
I didn't know they put tropical.
In my collection,
Yeah.
I have some John Ray Nephew bottles.
Yeah.
For 2 years, I think, in the end of the 50s, they put aged 8 tropical years, or something like that. And so I was the first to put tropical aging on the label, to put the esters. If you think before, nobody
That's
speak about
crazy,
that.
right?
So I did this because for me, the transparency, because my work is a merchant, my real work. So I have to be honest between the brand owner and the consumer. In the middle, there is you. And so all my life, I say, honestly. And I'm not against the aging in Europe. I'm not against the sugar as a dogma. I say the best rum is a distilled spirit, is no sugar. But there are many categories and there is space for everybody. The important is to be honest, transparent, try to give more information. Now I see many, I'm not independent, never an independent bottler. I was a co-bottler because all my bottling are made with the distillery, in the distillery, and to give a value to the distillery, because why you do, I select a barrel for my egoism and pleasure. No, also because thanks to this, I find a small truffle in the warehouse, and these have to help the brand.
A truffle in the warehouse. I love
You
that.
understand what I mean? I have is to help.
Yeah. Promote the
my
brand.
Demerara
Yeah.
is to promote Demerara Distiller and El Dorado, the same Foursquare, and the same. If not, why the distillery owner have to give me a barrel? I never. We do together.
Yeah.
Then I sell. I distribute this product, but have to be propedeutic. Say, you see, these are the difference that you can find. Then you have a standard product. Joy Spence make a fantastic blended with Appleton, but I say, why we don't show your colors?
Yeah.
You make these blends because you have this mark of Appleton 1984. It's interesting.
And this was the heart.
And this is the art. This is my movement, you understand?
Yeah.
For this reason, for a long time, the distillery were happy to make co-bottling with me, you know. And if you look, I never put the name Velier, apart Habitation Velier, that was a little bit educational, to explain, to put an illustration, say, this is made with this copper pot still, so is something artisanal, was only this the goal.
One of your main collaborators, or at least most famous, is Richard Seale at Foursquare. What can you say about that distillery and about Richard?
Unfortunately, I was betrayed by Demerara, because Jesu Perso was my godfather, my father, and he told me one day one phrase that really I give a great emotion, because Jesu was a person that don't speak every word is by say, Luca, you are my friend, you are my brother, you are my son. Finish. I was really emotional. And when he died, I understood that I was in the free person closest to him, because there was a mail for praying and everything. I was two Guyanese people and me. And when Kamal Samaru took his place and Jesu took Kamal very young, and I know Kamal and I am well with him, he decided to stop the collaboration together, also in a way. Probably he didn't know really the real story, you know, because if you want, I can explain to you the story between me and Demerara. And so on the way back, I was never seeing Richard Seale, because I went twice in Barbados. I was with Mount Gay, you know, I was friend of the World family. And so that time coming back a little bit, like if you lose your girlfriend, you know, or wife, probably.
You're looking for a hot date.
I passed through Barbados and said, but I have to be able to go to Richard. And probably Daniele Biondi gave me, you know, yeah. And so I met Richard for first time.
What year was this, roughly?
Not so, perhaps 2014, 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know your relationship was...
No, 2014. Coming back from... And then he gave me to taste some rums, and prego. And I tasted these pot stills. Richard, these are fantastic. And then all the rum he gave me that day, they were about 40%. I said, excuse me, please, could you take a cast strength, you reduce to 55 to make an example. And we taste it. You see, it's completely different. This is the character of your rum. And so we start perhaps I thought it could be my new wife or your husband, I don't know. And so we start to speak about the classification because he found, because we say, one day when he saw my classification, he said, this is a right classification. So for a while it became the Gargano Seale classification.
Yeah.
Because Richard was more famous than me. I was not very known outside. I am importer, I import in Italy. All the Demerara, Caroni, I sold only in Italy. Then they discovered me in Whiskey Live in Paris and started the Caroni mania. But I never went to export. I was thinking, I was a little bit provincial. I was thinking only to my country and my job and my pleasure to discover Caroni or Demerara. And so he gave me the 2006, that was the first co-bottling. And I can say that we became quite famous with that.
And was this under Habitation Velier branding?
We did, exactly. The first was Habitation Velier, the 1 year old or 2 year old, 2013. We did. And now we did another edition. And this was the starting of a collaboration because I understood that Richard had the same feeling that rum had to put at the right place, you know. And then people say, make me a little bit guilty to have collaborate to increase the price of rum. But it's not true, first of all.
Oh, I see.
Because are the speculators that make the margin, not me. I sold at 32 euros the Caroni, the first Caroni, 32.
Was it 32 euros?
But it's also necessary to give the right price to the brand owner. Because rum was a commodity, you know, so you sell one tank to England, to Holland, but artisanal rum, 2-3 times I asked, could you increase me a little bit the price? I do in Haiti, to make an example, the Clairin, because artisanal rum, that artisanal is the Clairin, but is also Foursquare, because it follow all the process. And yes, okay, you have to be happy that for some years you could drink very, very good rum for nothing, but you have to give the right price also for the survival of the activities, you know. Have to be the right price, not exaggerate. But when you have, this is also a problem, a little bit unfair, but if the human being could not understand the difference between a Hamden tropical aging and a Hamden continental aging, perhaps at the same price, or the continental is 1976 and the tropical is 2008, and you have the same price, you buy the 1986, but in reality, in terms of contents, is older the 2008.
Yeah, because it's not the tropical aging. Yeah,
no, you have not more this liquid.
Yeah.
So this is
this is the problem with age statements anyway, right? It can be very misleading depending on the cask. Never mind the location. If you've got a knackered old cask and it's 30 years old,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what I think, everything at the end have to be win-win for everybody. So I am completely against the speculation of I sold some Papalin at 21 euros after 1 week or 200 euros. Is insane. Is no good. But I think also the brand owner have to touch the right price to continue to maintain the quality, the standard, and survive well. You understand? Nobody of these artisans, distillers, want to build a skyscraper or buy an island. You know, they want to live well and give work to people. You understand? We have some. Do you like to eat a pasta with me?
Yeah, let's pause.
Papri, the best pasta. Tristan, is the first interview that you do eating a frittata? Surely, yes.
Frittata, yeah. Yeah, normally there's sometimes some snacks, but this is quite a plate of antipasti. So yeah, partnerships, collaborations. I want to drill down to a few more of these. When I did the rum book, obviously I followed your steps to some extent, but the most remarkable discovery of all for me was Haiti. Yes. And you are really the great pioneer of opening the world's eyes to Haitian Clairin. I think probably pretty much everyone recognized that there was only one distillery on Haiti and it didn't make particularly great rum. And now we have a situation where it turns out there's hundreds, and they're all making these incredible local spirits that really, for me, I found to be sort of highly representative of what the Caribbean might have been like 200 or 300 years ago.
Yeah.
Small community stills, making for the community, each with their own little idiosyncrasies, each slightly different, and some of them just utterly delicious. So, with that premise, tell me about how you discovered Haiti and how you began your journey with Clairin.
When I was just in beginning in the 1955, 80s, the best rum I never tasted was Barbancourt. Barbancourt was exceptional. I have a very nice collection of Barbancourt, and with Sukinder agree with me, Mr. Sukinder.
Whiskey Exchange, or formerly Whiskey Exchange.
Whiskey Exchange. But Barbancourt was fantastic, and I can say that apart from the agricole rum, my first discover that time in Italy was the moment of the Macallan vintages, 1966, 70. And Barbancourt was fantastic. So all my life I said, but it's impossible, there is only one distillery. One day I will go to Haiti and probably I find some barrels or that. And then for different reason, this trip was postponed. There was a Papadoc and then another thing and then another, then the earthquake. And finally I arrived in Haiti. No, I went in Haiti in 2000, but illegally from the Dominican South border, from Pedernales, twice, but just to Jacmel, come back without papers, nothing. And then finally I arrived in Haiti in 2011-12. And for me, it was first was come back to my career, I don't know, in 1975. And secondly, I start to love this country. I really, Haiti is my second country. The slaves, without a weapon, without nothing, they did a revolution, they won.
Mm-hmm. The only successful slave overthrowing of
They created
regime.
the first republic, and for this reason I understood very quickly that they received, the slaves have no right to rebel and never to win. So they receive a red card forever.
From the rest of the...
You have to be, you want to rebel, everybody in the world. If you rebel, you finish like this.
Look what happens.
And then I go to Haiti, I start to discover a country, the food is fantastic, the people is fantastic. Is a human, is with the good, the bad, we are humans, and spiritual with the do. But that time was just after the earthquake. So there was plenty of NGO that don't speak about the NGO is better.
Yeah.
But anyway, don't want to speak about
Yeah.
this. But anyway, these people stayed in Port-au-Prince, weekend in Jacmel. I never met one white person outside Port-au-Prince and Jacmel. For many, I didn't see you in 2015, but perhaps have you seen a white man around? No, I think no
Only
one.
in Port-au-Prince. Yeah.
No, what? In Port-au-Prince, some. And so I go in the country. And one day with Daniele Biondi, I was looking for an aged rum. And one morning you had to go out from Port-au-Prince very early in the morning because then there is a traffic jam, fantastic. Naples is Switzerland.
Honestly, I had the word, sorry to cut you off. I remember one night when I was there, we were driving back to Port-au-Prince and there was a thunderstorm. The rain was coming down so hard. All the roads were just turned into mud and slush.
Cars.
There's massive cars and massive trucks. And some of the Haitian guys are loving it. They're really in their element. They're just like grinning at us. And we are terrified. Just all the weather. Utterly unbelievable. Like pure chaos.
So one day we go out from Carrefour, the west part of Port-au-Prince, and after 20 kilometers was just the sunrise. I see two bulls with a chariot, with a cart, like in Marie-Galante or like in Guadeloupe when in 1990. Say, what is this? And the two bulls enter in a gate, So we went inside and we saw an incredible place with a wooden fermented vat with a chicken on, a woman giving breastfeeding. What is it? This is Clairin. And I knew, because I am a historian, so I studied, so Kervegant, some sugarcane and rum writers, also in 1910, but some in Haiti produced the Clairin, but it was not specified what is the Clairin.
Just a footnote, like
a footnote, 2 lines. And at that time, if you went to internet, you put Clairin, there was no one link, no one.
Wow.
Now go and see. And I said, but this is a rum. No, it's Clairin. Now I speak Haitian Creole, but at that time I don't speak Haitian Creole, I speak in French. These people don't speak French. I say, how many degrees? I say, 55, 25. Well, it's possible, 25. And they say, taste. I say, no, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I was, it never happens to I eat snakes, dogs, everything, but I was a little bit looking. But then I tasted. I say, this is, no. Then I go to Ilavache. And normally, Daniel and me, we travel with a bottle of rum. So we like to drink our rum. That time we have no rum. And here I say, give you a babankou. Say, no, yes, okay, no. We drink very natural, but I have something. And arrive with a bottle. We drink this. Me and Daniela say, it's fantastic, but it is my brother, Michel Sajous. Where is your brother? I was fantastic. And Daniela said, but why we are looking for old rum? This is was Daniele first to say, this is the discovery. We never tasted the product like this. Say, where is we are in Ilavache. Say, where is your brother? Saint-Michel de la Talaye. We go. We go. It was 2 or 3 days to arrive into
it takes a long time to get
and
there.
we arrive in this fantastic place and we discover Michel Sajous. And then I created the AAA movement in the wine. You speak about rum, but I am more known in some countries because I did the first protocol of natural wine in the world.
Yeah.
AAA was the first in the world. This is a AAA wine.
Good.
And the classification of Clairin, if you think, because Clairin, you have seen because you went there, could be made by pure sugarcane juice, like Vaval and Sajous, from syrup, like Le Rocher and others, so different. The real definition of Clairin is not the raw material, is that the farmer is the distiller. This is the real Clairin. For this reason, and my associate today, Herbert Linguet, that we have a small distillery of Port-au-Prince,
Yes.
from Haiti, was never outside he came with me. I discovered Saint-Michel de la Talaye thanks to me, because the Port-au-Prince people live in Port-au-Prince, they go in 2 places in the weekend and finish. But I discover, and as I did the natural wine movement, that still existed, as also the grappa in Italy 100 years ago. You did the wine, the grapes, and then you distill some grappa. All the farmers did this. So in Haiti, I saw the real agriculture, all natural. Sugarcane, no hybrids, crystalline, incredible. And the farmer produce the sugarcane, drink the juice, analcoholic of sugarcane, produce a sugar like the rapadou, fantastic, and then make also the rum to drink, and the Clairin also for voodoo and see. So to see that, and the Clairin, Sajous was selling. Everybody knew in Haiti, like we know that the best cherries are from Vignola, the best, in Italy we know that vegetal, the best asparagus is in Sant'Anna. No? Everybody knows in Haiti that Saint-Michel de la Talaye is the best Clairin. But these farmer distillers, they sold in the at 10 kilometers from the distillery.
Yeah.
People arrive to the distillery with a small tank, with a bottle, and put inside and goes. So for me, it was to discover a truffle that people think is a potato, probably, but is a truffle. And so I said, but how is possible? And if I don't go fast, the risk that with the international law, they arrive to a distillery like this, they close after 1 second because there is the chicken. But this is the most true, most natural, and also you understand for the culture is the farmer that is the distiller that use everything about his product, So eat, drink, distill. At that time, only few Clairin they were in small bottle of 10 cl in Port-au-Prince, because in meantime there were some a little bit more industrial, but not industrial, but anyway, like in a Creole column.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, if you go in the country, you see that they distilled in the old stills used by the French in 1802, And so I try to develop them, the real one, you understand, that live in the country, and so. And so then for passaparola, mouth to mouth, there is another one there. So I went to Casimir, and then I discovered 3 or 4. And they told me today, look, but when I said, but Michel, one day we will bottle this product. Then they say, look, we thought it was crazy. They had no bottles, nothing. And honestly, I don't know how in the beginning I was able to do this. It was very difficult also to pay them. I
would imagine logistically, first of all, dealing with the distillers who, some of them live in incredibly remote parts of the world, let alone Haiti. And then you've got a product that's never been exported before.
Never bottled
before. Obviously, Barbancourt exported.
No, Barbancourt.
Yeah. But you're effectively exporting a category of spirit for the first time. You, I presume, have to have some sort of warehousing in Port-au-Prince and bottling and labeling, packaging, whatever, and then shipping it all out. It must have been. I mean, a real passion project, because
you are one of a few persons that was in Saint Michel de la Talaye.
Yeah.
Imagine when you arrive.
I mean, as I told you before we started recording, I thought I was going to die driving there. Not through any threat from a Haitian, just because we ended on a road that we had been driving for 2 hours, and it just got more and more bumpy, more and more rough, and we thought we were going to break the car. And a 4x4. I mean, you can't hire a car in Haiti that isn't a 4x4, I don't think, because it's just impossible to get around. But nevertheless, it was creaking, it was groaning, and we were halfway up a mountain. And we knew we were only 3 miles or something as the crow flies to Saint Michel d'Ate. And yet we had to make the decision to turn around and drive for 3 hours to get up where we wanted to go, because this road was totally impassable. So, yeah.
Could you thought that somebody think to bottle you? I think no, honestly.
It's crazy.
But sometimes there are impulse, For me, it was stronger than me. But if I think today, say how I was able, then I have a destiny to know Herbert, because 20 years before, I have a telex. When I was looking for another Barbancourt, I saw that there was this Vieux l'Abbé, this I thought distillery was not a distillery because they blend some product. I spoke with the father of my Bertie, and then we met 30 years later.
Oh, okay.
So we rode together young, we met over 50. But the son, Herbert, is one of my best friends, and he had this compound in Port-au-Prince. And he has nothing to do with he didn't know that existed Saint Michel. No, he knows Saint Michel, but he never been there. Say, please help me. I send you the bottles from Europe, and then in some way we receive the Clairin here, and we bought. It was very complicated. And there were without earning money, nothing. In beginning, we did this, and for me, it's also a co-bottling, because I don't. And then I try to give. We paid that time 50% higher, but price was nothing.
Yeah, it's cheap when you buy it in Haiti.
Year after year, we say, but we have to sell a little bit more. And now what we're doing, from for a few months, because when I buy the Clairin, in the beginning, I'm not able, because I make contracts with them also, and I could not say you are not able to sell, I don't buy from you. So I bought anyway. Then I have a lot of Clairin. I start to age the Clairin. But the reality is because I was not able to sell white Clairin.
Aging in wood.
Put in wood and see what happens. So we did Clairin Ancien, and now we have old Clairin. But now, and are very, very good. I give you something to taste later.
Yeah.
Are very, very good because Clairin is aging very, very well. And then I say, but if I sell, I pay the right price and everything. But if tomorrow Sajous see that I sell a bottle of 5 years old Sajous at, I don't know, 50 pounds, I don't feel very well. So now what we did, now we send barrels to him. So one part is aged by him with our barrels, but we give free of charge. And then we buy as aged rum.
Okay, so you're providing the barrels. Yeah. So what barrels are you? What, is it wine casks or cognac casks?
Wine cask, no. Mainly are ex-rum cask because I bottle
got the rum anyway, yeah.
Are not totally are ex-bourbon, but now are all ex-rums, but many different rums.
Ex-Caroni
also ex-Caroni cask, yes. Also ex-Caroni. I send my Caroni cask there.
Fantastic. Will you put that on the label when you sell it?
Yes, we put the label already.
That's quite a unique proposition.
But in beginning, we start to sell the Clairin Ancien and then the Sajous aged.
Yeah.
That was our stock that we bought 5 years before, and we say we don't sell and we age. But I say, if I am Sajous, I see one bottle of this price, I'm not very happy. So we went to Michel and say, Michel, but build a small warehouse because it's also a pleasure. Because then, when you start a story, you make a little bit of revolution, was unknown. The friendship is not a business, all the Haitian people knows me since long time.
Yeah.
Because I was the only guy that invested in Haiti, not with NGO, not for charity, but for the quality of fantastic. Because today, I think, honestly, the best sugarcane in the world is in Haiti. The farmers are really farmers. They deeply know their job, you understand?
I think there's something about that, the connection to the land and to the crop, and then seeing that whole process through from mashing or grinding it down to fermentation, and then the distillation. When you have that connection from the start, with the seasons as well, and with the flavor of the culture around you, you're the master of the entire process, right?
Yes.
And then what you get at the end of it is such an honest expression. I guess like one of the other places where you see this is the very traditional mezcal and raicilla producers as well, where they're also farmers as well.
Honestly, in that moment when I discovered the Clairin, because also I discovered I didn't know Clairin, I thought about the mezcal because I went in 1995 in mezcal area in Oaxaca. And we did also a project, I don't know if you know, Single Palenque.
I've seen it, yeah.
But you know that when you make a war, we give a name in code, thunderstorm. And when I arrived there, I met Michel. I said, I have my secret name is from Cinderella to Princess. I want to transform somebody that is unknown, and the risk that disappeared before the human being can know this. That is enormous know-how in real agriculture, organic without being labeled, but is organic, and in the artisan part of the distillation. Have you seen the small pot still of Sajous, Vaval, especially Sajous, because Vaval is a bit different. And I felt really in love. Then I know very well Africa, and when you see people that was with the strength take out from their countries 400 years before, that still maintain tradition after 400 years. People goes with things on the head. They put the corn on the trees. Like today in Africa is disappearing this. It's like when you go in Boca in Buenos Aires and you see some Italians emigrated that are more Italians than the Italians. So I felt really in love with Haiti. And some bad people, some years ago, I know why, but they, today with the digital, told me that they did a protocol because they want maintain. They didn't. I did not a protocol. I recorded the way they did. I did not say you have to do this. I said, it was so beautiful because the risk was that, like cachaça, if you look, today is the opposite. First arrived the commercial industrial cachaça. Now we go to discover the few small remained real artisanal cachaça. In this case, Clairin was unknown. It was easy for me go to Port-au-Prince, take a Clairin made in Port-au-Prince, and it was easier. It was already bottled and everything. No, but when I discovered this fantastic agriculture, country life, natural, normal, beautiful,
Untouched by the rest of the world.
untouchable. So I said, I want take them, not and I asked how you produce.
Sure.
So the protocol was not my protocol, was the way that
Yeah.
all the
And you need to
Haitian
be able to
use.
communicate how it's produced.
And
in
then
your
I have to
literature.
defend this in the case tomorrow arrive a industrial cachaça, you understand? So I say, no, but the real Clairin is this one, but I did not a protocol. I only recorded the way they did, and I say, I like to that the world knows your product, and when Drinks International in 2019, I think, put in the top 10 Clairin number 7, parentheses, Sajus,
That's quite a moment.
was probably one of probably in the Rhum, my best moment in
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
because I did something, and I don't know if you have met Michel, because Michel was Sajus,
No, he wasn't there when we visited the distillery. Yeah,
but are a fantastic person.
yeah. We my memory of that distillery is there was a little boy. I think it was a boy, could have been a girl, who was walking around, maybe only 3 or 4 years old, walking around the distillery, just playing a game by themselves, and just had the most incredible eyes, like pierced straight into you. And I took a photo of him or her, again, don't know if it was a boy or a girl, next to a massive pile of bagasse. And like, I look back at the picture now and it makes me cry a little bit because it's just the most beautiful.
One day we have to go together.
Yeah, well, I'll be on that trip, Luke.
You spoke to me before recording about Leonardo Leuci that you met. No, I took Leonardo once
to Haiti.
for the World Championship.
Oh, yeah.
And then Leonardo, for 4 years, called me, said, Luca, I come with my money.
Yeah.
Please, I want to come back to Haiti. And came 4 times with me. And some people that came with me, but not in Port-au-Prince, Jacques Mel, came in the countryside, in the real Haiti. Many of them changed life.
Yeah. It changed my life.
Changed the work.
It changed my life.
Changed the things. Because Haiti, if we are correctly humble, we understand how far we are from the real life. Yeah. In Haiti, there is the real life with good, bad, everything, but it's the real life.
Yeah.
And the real human being. And so if you have the eyes to see, you can learn and understand that some modern guidelines probably are not, because, for instance, the food, the agriculture is fantastic. So the goal have to be, we have to develop these to create the possibility to export not only the Clairin, but also the mangoes. They have a lot of tropical fruit disappeared from other countries. The small lime, citron vert that in Marigalanta are dying there. So to mix, maintain something that is original, authentic, natural, organic and everything, and find the road to export, to be in the world, but without changing, you understand? Everybody today is egoist. The rice in Haiti, there is a region, perhaps if you pass it in one way to go to Saint Michel, you have met this region. The rice is fantastic, the maize is fantastic. But the day arrive, a multinational, say you have to make a modernization, and then you make an industrial product, and you have to pay less. It's the opposite, you have to give value.
Yeah.
These fantastic, today are very rare,
Yeah, for sure. No, it's incredible. I remember getting back from all of my travels around the Caribbean, and I was said to anyone that would listen, next I want to write a book about Haitian rum, Haitian Clairin, because I was so captured by what I saw there.
You like some wine?
I would love some wine, thank you. Yeah. And so moved by the people and the generosity and the life. And as you say, it's human life, but in its kind of purest form. And that, again, it's captured in the spirit, when you taste the liquid, it's rum, but it's different and it's purer in a way. And
You know what is incredible? That my wine producer, the AAA, mine in the sense that are all nice, very good person. When drinking the Clairin, they felt in love immediately. And Clairin is not so easy if you are not in the business, if you're not a rum lovers.
Yeah, it can be challenging. Yeah.
These wine producer are not probably have never drank, but they understand immediately that is made as they make the wine. For me, it was incredible.
Capturing the soul, like you say.
It's incredible to see a wine producer that have never drank a rum, and Clairin is not a standard.
Yeah, it's funny.
Rum, and they fell in love. 3 or 4 of them, they buy regularly Clairin to put in their winery. And if you like to write this book, I like to make a film in Haiti.
Yeah, well, let's do it. I'd love to
show how he's proud. I am proud of Haiti. Haiti is in the position that if some investor arrive with the right head, could be a paradise. But you have to make a new way of tourism. You have not to build a Punta Cana, a big hotel, and destroy everything. But today there is people that adore. And I think, now I ask you something. You went in 50 distilleries in Caribbean in a short time, so you have visited all the island. Which is the island that surprised you more?
Oh, yeah, Haiti, for sure. No question.
And for me, the same.
No question, yeah. Can we drink some Clairin? Because I think we've talked a lot about it, and I know we don't have any on the table, I don't think, but...
Benny, portaci una bottiglia di Clairin Sajus, ci sta... E qua già mafia.
So, I just think it sort of makes sense.
I would like that you taste the old Sajus, the evolution of Sajus.
Yeah.
Sajus. Ce l'hai lì davanti, amore, Sajus bianco, la porta già... Sì, va bene. Questo va bene.
Vuoi anche il vieux Sajus?
How did you go about selecting which producers you're going to work with? Because my experience was there are a lot of Clairin distilleries, especially when we got up to the north. It seemed like we were driving. It seemed like we were driving past them every few minutes. So many, and we stopped at maybe 10.
I did with slow food because I would like that. Slow food, and they did a presidium. Presidium means a protection, no? Because when you are so artisanal with the international rules, this is what yes. With the international rules,
Grazie.
Welcome.
Salute.
Salute. You risk that Clairin, you have to make some adaptation to the international rules.
Cameras can't see me.
Okay, excuse me. And so I did a screening because I went everywhere in Haiti. Some of the small guildive, they call guildive the distillery, like Palenque. In the process, they don't control perfectly the fermentation, so sometimes they are a little bit too ascetics.
Yes.
Then what happens? This is something that we have to think about, because what happens? There was a big tornado.
Cyclone. Yeah.
Cyclone 5 years ago, the biggest. And there is a region, Jérémy. My next Clairin was, Jérémy is in the west north.
Okay.
In the
on the
finger,
yeah.
on the north.
Yeah.
And there is a valley. Every 10 minutes you have a guildive. But what happens when there was the cyclone, no sugar cane, they start to use sugar. And then it's easy to copy, say, but with the sugar.
Yeah.
And sometimes Clairin is also made as alcohol to drink and not to taste. So now, in this area, many distilleries, you put sugar in fermentation,
Right.
And the risk is easier So how you can fight this is to go to the right one, that is do the real Clairin and pay the right price.
Yeah.
And what happens? So we did a screening, and we have a 15 producer, thanks to Michel Sajous, because it was that we think are very good.
He helped you to select the...
Yeah, and everybody, and are in slow food organization, you know. But nobody went, because I could not, I want not to be a monopolist. It will be like that other rum lovers goes and do this. But for the moment, nobody went there to do, you know. So there is already a list of 15. Then sometimes, and this is nice also, I have two producers in a very remote area, very, very remote, that say, yes, but I buy you. At the end, we don't arrive to have a product. And every 6 months, they say, but excuse me, this guy, we went to him, say, no, but the owner is in US, have to come back. So sometimes, because they sell locally, and but my 2 or 3 other Clairin, very good, came out.
I guess one of your other great discoveries, perhaps that you were even more famous for than Haiti, is Caroni, which is just the most remarkable story I think I've ever heard in spirits. So perhaps you can tell us about this distillery from Trinidad, about its history, and then what happened with you.
So we are in the beginning of 21st century, so 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. That time was very busy for me because I created the movement of a natural wine with Libre, the cigar with Niki Lauda and the team with the Cuban cigar. And I had a girlfriend, my great love, Urska. And I decided with a photographer, Freddy Marcarini, I said, I want to go in all the Caribbean island with a mentality to record everything, because I knew already all the distilleries, but I never put all the process of production. And we can make also picture. It was the last years of before digital, so Freddy printed in white and black the pictures. And so we started from the north of the Caribbean, and we went down. And in 9 December 2005, last island is Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago have no rum in this moment. They stopped 100 years ago. And so we go to Trinidad. And I know Caroni. In Trinidad, there were 3 distilleries when I started to work. Fernandez, that was San Fernandez, are great rums. Then was bought when it was closed to Angostura, and then Caroni. Caroni was a bulk rum, sold in bulk rum, and probably they sell some bottles in Trinidad, surely. So I arrived to Trinidad, Pilmco Airport, if I remember. I take a taxi, I say, may we go to the Caroni? Caroni have swamps close, the Caroni swamps. When I arrived to the Caroni, it was like the day after. The gate was closed, the column was like a Pisa Tower. And I said, what happens? So I see inside, from the gate, a person at 50 meters. And I say, oh, I call this woman. I say, but what happens? This is Caroni. Yes, it's Caroni. You don't know what happens. No, excuse me. Last year, the government closed the sugar factory. The Caroni sugar was the last sugar factory. So if you close the sugar factory, no molasses, no rum, and the 13,000 people working in the fields were fired. I don't, excuse me. I didn't.
So you're expecting it to be open and
Yes, I think yes, because you know that time, 2004, the internet exists, but not
you
real
didn't have
time.
Up-to-date information. Yeah.
Yes, and so they opened this gate. I enter. I remember I had a problem in my knees because there was a grass, the rail, where the train goes, no,
Like a
the rail.
rail track.
Rail track.
Yeah.
was hidden by the
You
grass.
banged.
I
You
fell down.
fell, right,
I
yeah.
was the day after. They say probably they distilled something last year. I said, but excuse me, have you some barrels about what you say? What you say? Some barrels. Come with me. Okay. I passing this.
Who was this woman, by the way? What was she doing?
I was no. I know what I was doing. There was a small house, and inside they bottled for Christmas, because it was 9 December, some bottle in the last stock of a stallion or gray stallion for the Trinidad market in a Christmas box. And I don't remember if it had something so was there doing this small packaging, you understand? But the distillery was completely destroyed. It was the day after. So when I told her, perhaps they have some barrels distilled last year, I say, what you say? Come with me. And we go to warehouse number 1, open a warehouse number 1, and I see, I don't know, 1,000 barrels. So like a cat in front of a mouse, I am, first of all, I love rum. It's not only business. It's okay, I do business, but I love the rum. I had a salivation. Say, but excuse me, it's last year distillation. What you say? 1983. It was 2004, so 20 years old. 83, 84, 85. I said, but have you the paper? Because I say it's impossible. I know the rum business. I know Caroni. Caroni was a bulk rum. Like
it was going into blends mostly, was it?
Eh?
Where was it being sold when it was operational? What products?
No, because they did different type of distillation. One more heavy,
yes,
with more congeners, and they stocked. They produced enormous quantities. So 2,000 barrels was nothing. And they had also, then this also is the difference in the Caroni bottle today. They had also a light rum, means ethanol, that they aged also. Mm-hmm. But this one was the heavy one.
But back when it was operational, where was the rum being sold? Was it all for the Trinidad market, or was it
bulk?
Yeah,
and was bottled for Tate and Lyle in 1966 or 72.
Okay.
1 year in England with a Caroni bottle that I reproduced about 1 year or 2 years, small quantities, sold in a local market. Yes, the white rum stallion. And then was all bulk, fresh rum.
Yep.
But they aged also some rum, but 1,000 barrels was nothing for Caroni. Caroni was like a small Demerara, a small Angostura,
sure.
Commodities.
As you say, 13,000 employees with the sugar mill as well.
No, the 13,000 was the farmers that that have the sugar cane. Yeah. So when you close the sugar factory, no more molasses, but no more sugar cane. So in the field of sugar cane, now there are buildings. Was also
it's a hell of a redundancy.
Was right? a state speculation, Instead of to have a sugar cane, we have buildings, houses, and everything. And so it's like, have you the paper? I say, impossible, 83. Yeah. And the liquidator was Rudy Moore, was not there. And I was leaving the day after, say, Freddy, my photographer, stay here. We call Rudy Moore, that was 2 meters tall, a calypso dancer, but old guy, but very thin. I didn't meet him at that time. I say, Freddy, stay here. I speak by phone. I say, maybe we have a sample and the price and everything. And so when Freddy come back with the sample and the price. When I look at the price, I don't understand if it's for 1 glass, for 1 liter. It was very cheap. I taste the rum. This is like Muhammad Ali. You can love or hate, but it's unique. So my first problem was a 68, 71%. How I can reduce is like to put the tie to Muhammad Ali. But I could not sell this rum. At that time, there was no cask strength rums.
Yeah.
I did in 2001 the first Damoiseau 60.1. That was incredible. This 1980.
Was that molasses or cane juice?
This was the problem because when finished the season in Guadeloupe, and you have a contingent, you can produce a little bit more rum that then in France pay less duties. It's pity to don't do all the contingent. And so they added some molasses in the sugarcane, pure sugarcane juice. But then there was a control, and this rum was saying, no, this is not agricole rum, out. For this reason, I found the 1980. Because it was like a black...
black sheep. Yeah.
Black sheep, you understand? And it was fantastic. So then I tasted the product. I said, it's fantastic, but I would like to bottle cask strength, but then it's a water law. I could not sell. And then I decided, I had already this bottle that I did for the Demeraras.
Mm-hmm.
I say, why we don't put the picture we did with Freddy, my brother? Peach at that time, no Papi Van Winkle.
The only one with a picture on the front.
Yeah, but it was a picture, you know, a little bit sepia.
Old, yeah.
You know, it was different. My father said, but a picture in it. I say, it's the truth. We took the picture, I put the picture. My brother told me, you are crazy. So I decided to bottle at a high proof or cask strength, because I reduced also a part to 52%, but 52 was already enormous.
And what did you say it was at? At what strength? Cask strength? Like 60s,
the maximum, some were 75, 71, 68, 66, between 65 and 72.
Mm.
So some I did high proof at 52%. That was already incredible that time. And I said, but one part I have to let. And then I paid nothing. So I could sell at 32 euros with a margin, a good margin for me. And little by little, but I did 3,000 bottles, not one bottle. But at that time, people was drinking a little bit more than...
How many casks did you buy initially?
I don't remember. The Dutch guy, the German guy knows everything. When the German guy that wrote the book came here during the COVID, I was alone, everything. I said, Stefan, I have my archives, my file there.
Go at it, yeah.
Go. I have no time because I have a minus 86%.
It's already been written down.
And he built all the story that I didn't know. He told me that I have lost 20 million in Angel share, but I didn't. I'd say that for luck I know today. But he knows everything because I bought him 4 times also because I had not the money that time. And Rudy said, no, in the beginning they don't want to sell these barrels because they want to sell everything, the name, the distillery, destroyer, and the stock.
Yeah.
Until 2008 was difficult to buy the heavy. Then in 2008 they did an auction, but was the light Caroni, was not my Caroni. And so many barrels were bought, a lot of barrels. Some they were blended, and some are now in the Liverpool warehouse or everywhere in the world. But it's not the heavy Caroni.
Aged in Trinidad, yeah.
Not only aged in Trinidad, but it was a different mark.
Heavier rum. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, how many barrels in total have you bought? Do you know roughly? I think it's more than 1,000. More,
no,
3,000,
2,000, 3,000, more thousands.
Yeah, thousands. Yeah.
Now I still have 11.
That's it. That's all that's left.
Finished.
Yeah. And it's become just this legendary distillery now as a result of A, you're discovering it, B, the quality of the rum, and C, now the desirability of it because it's a dwindling supply.
When I never did the official tasting of Caroni in my life. No, sometimes I speak about this story. And when I tell the story, inside me, I say, Luca, but it's true. What are you? Also for me was a little bit, destiny sometimes. This is fantastic in the life. Perhaps if you remember how you met your wife. Perhaps for 2 seconds, you didn't met her.
Yeah.
Or if your friend don't invite you, if imagine the life is fantastic. And I don't know why I was in this merge of a situation. I arrived on 9 December and I find, probably say it's closed. I go. No, I saw inside the small building a person. I was, and this woman listened to me and come. And so many coincidences.
The woman wasn't there. If she was in a different part of the warehouse.
No, I am in the gate.
Yeah.
The gate that you see the other side, no? Mm. And I see a column like a Pisa Tower. Was the day after. And there was, between me and the column, that 100 yards or 200 yards, there was a small house with glasses. So I see inside there was a person, but it was very far. So I say, oh, like this, understand? And this woman listened me that if I have the music, don't listen me.
Yeah.
And so came out and
Never
arrived
could've-
to the gate. And then I started to say, but this is Caroni. And the story I told you before.
Yeah.
And so it's a destiny. And then this stock of 20 years old at that time.
Mm.
And then I also decided to left because the first I bought a bottled. Then I come back to buy after 1 year or 1 year and a half to buy another part. I bottled. And the third time, because I bought 4 times, the third time was too much. I could not bottle this quantity. So I asked to Jesu. Jesu told me, Trinidad is very dangerous. Don't let your barrels in Trinidad. I don't know why. So, may I send to you? And here I saw there is a sample of a Caroni I've seen before. This, you see, Caroni Guyana.
Yeah.
Because for the reason I was against the continental aging, I say at least I maintain in the tropical.
Guyana is very close anyway, right?
Yeah,
not too
it's
far.
more equatorial weather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
tropical.
That's very
In
dark.
fact, exactly. In fact, the aging was different there. And so this is Caroni. And
Should we try? Should we try some? What have we got here
You
exactly?
can try this.
You want to try that? Yeah.
This is a Caroni Guyana 1994. That this sample inside this plastic bottle, okay, is in 2020. So is a 26.
1995. 26. Yeah. 26. Okay.
And this is one of the last barrels that we put in Paradise.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I saw
Last
you did this.
Paradise.
This was like a cognac collaboration in the
No,
parody.
not cognac, no. In 2020, I had few barrels. Not few. I had some 150 barrels of Caroni in Trinidad, in Guyana. But after 25 years, rum is too much, and then I lose every year 12%, 11%. So I said, now stop aging. I send to cognac, but cognac could be Genoa. And they put as the great cognac in Dam John.
In the big glass gen.
And I invited 20 Caroni lovers
Yes.
to taste of the barrels.
Yeah.
And one part we bottled in the last drop and tasting gang. It was the last bottling of 1,500 bottles. And then we selected 22 barrels, I think. And we tasted all the barrels. This is one of these barrels.
How have you seen it evolve as it's, and if you've tasted it as it's gone along, how have you seen it evolve in the demijohn, in the glass, as opposed to being in the barrel? Because obviously being out of the barrel, it's going to stop a lot of the activity.
Honestly, I answer you in another way. I have seen during the year the evolution in the bottles.
Yes.
When I tasted my Caroni in 2004, 2005, 2010, I bottled. Then happens that I taste after 10 years in the bottle. Normally say bottle have no aging.
Oh, yeah, no, it does.
There is a big evolution.
Yeah.
In Damjana, I've not the knowledge to tell because...
I mean, it's larger, right? So probably
50,
slower than
50 liters. Yeah,
but
but
a quarter of a barrel, probably slower than a bottle.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
also, there's going to be
bottle,
something happening.
I can say that every person that have a Caroni bottles today is better and better than when I bottled in the past.
Interesting. I think also with bottle maturation or demijohn, more happens when the spirit has more character.
Yeah.
If it's already an inert light spirit, not a lot's going to change, Whereas when you've got something like this.
Exactly. A light spirit. The problem is a light spirit don't really evolve also in a barrel.
Yeah.
Could be aromatized by the wood, but
not
evolution
in synchronicity.
is
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Bravo, Tristan.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I mean, the cask and the liquid is an interaction. Yes, there's extractive effects from the barrel, like a tea bag, but also the liquid inherently changes through interaction with the wood, right? As esterification.
Exactly. And you see, now, excuse me if I speak about you, but in my long history, in my business, the bartender of 40 years ago, they knew everything about cocktail. They went in connection with the US, that was the last cocktail, but they not known deeply and also my father, people working now, it was not going so deeply in the knowledge. Now you are a bartender and you are an expert. So you had a different approach. Say, it's like a chef.
Yes.
If I want to cook a fish, I want to know where it come from, which kind of fish. 40 years ago, the bartenders were really bartenders with the conviviality, capacity to stay with the customer. They knew very well the cocktails and Prada to make good cocktails, but they didn't go deeply inside the raw material or the spirit, And now there is your generation.
Yeah.
And this for me is a great pleasure, because all my life I wasn't. For me, marketing is to explain the contents of a product, not the image. It's the real contents, how it's made, make the difference that make the difference.
Yeah.
To understand.
Yeah, I think as someone who's serving a product, which is what bartenders do and what chefs do, ultimately, if you want to be good at that, there's the hospitality side of it, but also there's the understanding the product, and that is a rabbit hole of adventure and of knowledge acquisition, and of meeting people and tasting great things.
Yes, but people, I think people that is not involved, but for pleasure, go to doing something, is enthusiastic to know more. Like for us, for instance, I don't know nothing about this pullover, but if I find the guy and say the wool come this and we do this, I am interested,
Yeah.
And more for something that come inside you.
You're putting it in you.
What you eat, what you drink is different than what you put here.
Indeed, yeah.
This is a big difference.
It's a really big difference.
Many times the spirit and wine and spirit company would like to do the same of a fashion, advertising. They don't understand that there is a big difference. What is inside us, outside us.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you discover a product, for instance, you discover a fever tree, also fever tree in 2006. Fever tree become part of you. You become jealous of if you find fever tree in the wrong place, because you identify yourself with this restaurant, with bar, is your style of life. You show to your girlfriend, to your wife, to your children.
Yeah, it represents who you are.
Represent what you are more than a bag or a car or a motorcycle,
But no, you're right. I think in a way, when spirit brands try to become like lifestyle brands, luxury fashion brands, they're actually missing the point of the power they already have.
Yeah, exactly.
And that power is that I trust you to give me something that I'm literally going to put inside myself. I'm not going to put it on my shoulders or wear it on my arm.
Exactly.
Or put it on my feet.
Exactly.
Or drive it around the place.
And change myself, because we are what we are eating and drinking. And if you drink well, in the right quantities, you become more friendly, more open. And tomorrow morning you are perfect, And so it's completely different. The wine, the drink and the food with the fashion, a bag or a car is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think, and all my life, I try, because it was a little bit my dream and my goal, to speak about the difference that make the difference. And when in Velier, we never do masterclass, we do seminars, because in Italian, seminario come from seed.
Yes.
Seme is
Semen.
seed. So for me, seeding is good word. Master, there are few master, honestly.
Yeah, masterclass it's quite pretentious.
No, right? Like a VIP. In Velier, we have a VIF, very important friends, not very important.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah.
And but if I do a seminar regarding champagne or regarding mezcal, I don't speak about my mezcal. If I have to speak about Sajus, I come and speak about Sajus. But if I speak about rum, there is a value. If I give you the difference, that I try to transmit to you. For me, the difference that make the difference are these, like single pot still or column. Perhaps tomorrow ask if this rum is made, how is made. And so also in a world that have a more globalization and superficial, because you think with Wikipedia you know everything, you could know everything. So you are not more interested to go deep in something, because if tomorrow I need to know this flower, I do like this, I find. But in the meantime, your generation, I mean about a younger generation than me, there is more and more people really interested about the real content and give more value, because one day when I was 5 years old, all the wine was natural, all the apple were natural. So okay, a great gourmet knows the difference between a lamb of Cornwall with a lamb, but few persons. Today, everybody would like to find something authentic, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think the more that our world becomes a confusing place with big brands and homogenization, that there's an opportunity to seek out authenticity, and we find it with great food. We find it with great rum and other great spirits and wine and coffee. And in many ways, a lot of it is about the food and drink that we put inside ourselves, because there's such a powerful, visceral connection to it.
but great is not if you have a crocodile on your t-shirt made in China. Now we understand that great, and this is my new movement named the Hogo, that the new Epicurean, you understand the
Epicurean,
21st century, your generation and younger than you, that they look to find the best in a drink and food. They understand that the best could come only from positive impulse in the agriculture, so no chemical, and from the savoir-faire, the know-how, the saper-faire of a human being.
The skill,
The skill. So this is the new generation, not only because there is a logo or a crystal decanter,
brand, or
but
like performative or whatever.
So, and for the reason that the real thing become more rare and rare, there is more pleasure to be in contact with these products that are son of human being that continue to do something that seems stupid, you know, with the intelligent, artificial intelligence. Everybody say, why you have to? No, I make cheese as not as 100 years ago, but I have a knowledge of 100 years ago, and I develop for the future. It's not stay in the past.
No,
but you take the past to go in the future, you know.
It's the best time now, because you have artisans making this salami or cheese, and they have all of the knowledge and respect of the past, and then they also have modern knowledge that they can layer on top of that in order to make something better than probably has ever existed.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to fetishize what happened in the past and think of artisans doing things in the purest possible way. And yeah, sure, they were more connected in general with the land, with their product, with their process. But there are still people out there now who have all of that, and they also have a modern intuition and all of the world's knowledge to layer on top of that. And so you get the best.
Yeah. But to make a stupid example, the Romans were the last culture that calculate the plus and minus to make an upgrading, you know. The Romans will be never had done an atomic bomb. So yes, there are many positive things to arrive there, but the negative, so we don't do.
Yeah, I get you.
But to make an example, in olive oil that we tasted before, olive oil before was pressed in the milling that was made with a natural vegetal. To play was a system, complicated system. It seems very beautiful. Now they do with a stainless steel press, and it's better and better. So not necessarily you have to stay in the past, but the important you do at cold temperature. You press slowly, soft pressing. So but you can improve something, you know.
Yeah.
So not we have not to stay in the past, but we have to use the past to develop the future in a wise way.
That's it.
Respecting the earth first of all. So doing you see how Clairin is so different. Since I was 18, when I went there, in the road you find people crushing, milling the sugar cane. You drink the juice, no. So I take the habit when I go first time in a distillery, sugarcane, say, may I taste the juice? And so I tasted all the juice of Nason, De Pass, JM, everybody. Ramra, if you taste the juice of crystalline, number one.
Yeah.
And from
because of the cane.
the quality start from this.
The cane, yeah.
And this taste Why I have this taste? It's the old varietal that now are disappeared
Yeah.
from the world, but also there is the agriculture, a good.
Sympathetic to that
You
cane.
understand?
Yeah.
Because if you don't use the chemicals, if you don't want
Yeah.
to produce too much, what is fantastic that you put a seed and after 2 years you have a sugar cane, or a tomato. Is a magical, no? And it's fantastic, and we have to respect this.
We've talked about your sort of, it's seemingly happenstance encounters with incredible things. The barrel stock at Caroni, the Haitian distillation culture. For me, it seems like it's too much to be a coincidence that you've just been lucky over and over again. It's this explorative attitude, this relentless seeking of information to learn more.
Today you risk also, we are in a very specialized world. If you go to the dentist, you have a problem here. I say, excuse me, where you have a problem here? No, I am specialized in superior part, go to another one. No? So for instance, people think that I am marketing. I say, he is a godfather for rum, and he created the first movement in the wine, and now also the pasta fabric. Today, there is the specialization, Your bar is only making whiskey. So I am a little bit I am a gourmet, and I love the skill of a human being.
Yeah.
And I am a talent scout. I have 2 distilleries. Now I do Nomad. That is a new project.
This is what I wanted to come on
it's
to.
First
actually.
in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, but the moment that my still works, okay, I am happy. I did a strategy, but I'm not a rum producer. You understand? It's not a pleasure. But for me, talent scout, discover a young football player at 15 that become a Messi.
Yeah.
Is a little bit my and so.
But it's talent and flavor and authenticity, right? I mean, and in a way you could the humans are obviously always going to be a part of it, right? And they have to be. This thing doesn't happen out of nothing. But it's talent suggests it's one person when oftentimes it's actually culture, isn't it? It's culture. I wanted you to talk about the Nomad project because this is exciting. Yeah, and I remember. So I remember writing in the book about HMS Walrus.
Walrus in Queensland.
In Queensland, in Australia.
1885.
I think it only lasted a couple of years, but it was a floating sugar refinery and rum distillery, right?
Rum distillery.
Yeah. I think they pressed sugar as well. I think they
went in this river close to the sugar factory.
Yeah.
And they sent them
the molasses.
I think. But
maybe
I was that time was just before COVID. I understood that I like history of sugarcane and rum. So I studied from the beginning and the price during the Roman time. I have many books, difficult to find, and then in 2019 I met Steve McGarry, also the master distiller, Australian master distiller that I like very much, Steve. And said, I don't know nothing about the history of Australian rum because I look at the Caribbean. So I went to study, and I see the SS Walrus that in 1882, 1885 goes in this river, and they gave probably molasses and distill in the Walrus. And there is
So you got to remember, this is a floating rum distillery on the river in Queensland.
But now, if you go in Queensland Heritage Museum, you find the design of a Walrus, how it was made. When COVID arrived, and I tell you also, without doing I am not a Novax, I am for freedom.
Yes, me too.
I say you do what you like. I respect you, but respect me. So for me, COVID was a little bit, and then for egoistically, for my business, close all the bars and everything. Yeah. So one morning I wake up, I was studying the Australia, and I see the Walrus. I say, but why I don't do? And I spoke also with Charles Gordon, William Grant's owner. that he had that Cinderella was a boat. He invited me in his boat, said, but why we don't put a pot still here? But it was like a dream, you know. Then here, now we are 2018. So I thought, but why I don't put a pot still in a boat? I take a boat, COVID like this, I go to the Caribbean, I stop. So I call Capovilla at 7 o'clock a.m. Say, Capo, you know, could be a good idea to put a... Cazzo! Capovilla is, with me is very... If I tell this is a Caroni, say, no, I told you this is not a Caroni, it's a Caroni. Hey, Gianni, I told you it's a Caroni. It's an incredible discussion between me and Capovilla. But we are partners. Say, but you are crazy. It's impossible. Say, how is impossible? Walrus, I was in 1882, did the power, the custom, and so it's destroyed my project. I call him after 2 days. But Gianni, excuse me, but if we put some solar things, we go 12 miles outside. I was thinking, why it was possible 150 years ago. Why? Caso, no, it's impossible. Zack, zack, zack.
Impossible from a business, like economical point of view, or impossible?
No,
literally
impossible for him was impossible. Because with the 2-day rules for security,
Yeah, just everything. Yeah,
so you could not use a real fire as a value.
Yeah.
Secondly, for the custom, because a distillery, so it told me so many. Said you need 2 acres of natural solar to do this. I said, but how is possible? Yes, but today you could not use the real fire. You could not do this. So I left the project, and after 1 month, I met the same guys that built the pot still for Foursquare. Mm-hmm. So we met, I'm Italian, but I met thanks to Richard. Mm-hmm. I called them and say, excuse me, I would like to do this and this and this. And they say, no, in a boat is impossible. Perhaps we can do 2
containers, yeah.
So that now is 2 years. And next week, finally, Nomad is ready. It will be the first transoceanic still, as still exists in Armagnac, le Bouilleurs de Cru, or that they go to the wineries that have no enough money to have a still, and they stay 3 days and distill.
They do that in Armagnac, do they?
There are 3 last. I did a series named Nomad, and they bottle this because you are a winemaker, but in tradition of this region, you won't have some Armagnac for your Tristan when Tristan is 21 years old. Sure. But they could not buy.
They don't have the distillation and everything.
Distillation is too expensive to make. So are still free. Until 20 years ago, there was also one in Calvados. Before was in Grappa.
And Armagnac, they're on a boat, or are they?
No, on a wheel.
Yeah, okay.
I show you then, last minutes, I show you a film I did about it. Not boat, never, but
yeah.
I mean, the Nomad distillery, Bouilleurs de Cru. And so they now seems, because it's 2 years and a half, they postpone it. I think they had also problem because, in container, there is a security problem. We have a double retort pot still, 800 liters. So in 1 day, into distillation, we make 1 barrique.
Yeah.
Another container where you have the
all the
power,
connecting stuff,
vapor, the steam, and the electricity. So I can go, and I have also a generator, so I can go in Sajus without electricity.
So it's fully self-sufficient. It can just run off like a diesel generator.
I can go everywhere. I need only a fermented juice, and I can distill also if there is no electricity and everything.
And because it's on containers, you could, in theory, put it on a truck and take it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So
now the project is, because it's evolved, the project is that next week, finally, I hope are ready. First time I will see. My Polynesian friend and brother from my island, Lidwin, that follow my collection, rum collection, will be one of a master distiller. Herbert from Haiti, another one, because we need somebody. And beginning, we go to Haiti because we need to produce more white rums, and our stills in Distillery de Port-au-Prince are small.
Yes.
So for 1 year.
Oh, you're going to supplement the distillery in Port-au-Prince with.
We have a distillery.
Yeah, I know. But you're going to use the Nomad distillery.
We go there, truck.
Yeah.
with 2 containers goes to our distilleries, and we can produce 20,000 in 1 year, 20,000 LPA. And so we learn also to use. Then
Yes, good idea.
Gregory Nason told me that agree. And what I am a little bit excited is that Grego have never batch distilled his agricole rum.
Yeah.
So I can go there. It's also a test, no?
In a double retort as well.
In a double
right?
retort.
Yeah.
So we can make in 1 month, I have 30 barrels. Then I aged. Then we will have a Nason Nomad
And you leave the barrels there.
barrel there.
Yeah.
Then we share the
Yeah.
profit. We decide how we do. But then I can go to Saint James. I spoke with Campari to go to Trois Rivières. Or now Steve Magari, this is from Australia, say, Luca, but there is a lot of small distilleries now growing up in Australasia. Make another Nomad is too expensive, but I can send Nomad there. And this Mother Mesccia, that we didn't speak about Mother Mesccia, but this is a very interesting project. I would like you to taste this product.
Yeah, let's try it. I've got an empty glass, so do you want me to pour it? So yeah, tell me about it. I mean, I can read it on the bottle. It says, first distillation. This is exciting.
I had a stupid idea because sometimes I have very simple ideas,
Yeah.
But then you say, but why nobody have think about this?
I didn't know if I should pour it in the Clairin glass or in the
better in
Caroni
the
glass.
Clairin.
Yeah.
No, better Clairin.
Better, well, I put it in the. I put it in the Caroni.
No, I take a glass.
Yeah. No, I'll pour it in the Clairin one. It's yeah. Because that Caroni, I've still got the Clairin glass, so I'll pour it in there.
What happens?
Go on,
the
go.
Prince Albert of Monaco.
Yes.
Monaco is the prince is the king, practically.
Not far from here.
Not far from here. Discovered that in the 17th centuries, so in 1680, the sailing boat arrived to Monte Carlo, Monaco, because they needed citric for vitamin C.
Yeah. Lemons and limes
and lemon, bitter orange, tzac. And they exchanged with rum. They paid with rum. So what did Monaco, 200 years ago? They put some Marsala wine and some vermouth inside, and they made a Mesccia. Mesccia in Genoa language, because Monte Carlo was a Genoa republic. Mesccia means blend.
Okay.
Mesccia, mescare, Mesccia. So the press discovered this recipe. Is a small, very small country, and say, I have to give value to our material heritage, so this is something from, I would like to reproduce the Mesccia. So they went, he has 2 helicopters. He understands that in South Spain there are some sugarcane. Send the helicopter to Spain. And so they took the sugarcane from Spain. They go to Monaco. They press it in a very simple way. Fermentation. And in Monaco now there is a Distillery de Monaco that make a gin and something like that. And they distill it there. And the product was a little bit horrible. So they don't know what they do. Say, but probably we don't know enough about fermentation. So they went, all the court, all the people of the France, they go to La Coulée de Serang, that is a wine producer, the chief of biodynamic, Nicolas Joly.
Okay.
Very famous wine in the Loire country.
Loire.
Yeah. Loire. They went there to Nicolas. Nicolas is he did with me the revolution of natural wine, thinking to know more about fermentation, also if wine fermentation is different, but when they speak about this, Nicolas said, but excuse me, you have a Luca close to you. Gargano is the biggest expert. Go to him.
Ah.
So they came to me and they said, well, excuse me, but to make a Mesccia, putting Marsala and vermouth inside, become a Sailor Jerry, Perhaps after 300 years, it's better to make a great rum and put in X Marsala cask, X vermouth cask, so you maintain the idea, but more.
Not as a finish.
But we want to produce the rum. If you want to produce the rum, you have to find the best sugarcane in the world. Where is the best sugarcane in the world?
Haiti.
And then I said, but Capovilla did one distillation today at 28%. Tomorrow, second distillation, Macallan make a distillation. So it's something very simple. They say, if you want the best sugar cane, it's impossible to have a sugar cane, the fresh.
You can't take it over.
But I go there, I take the crystalline sugar cane, I mill, I press, I ferment, I make the first distillation, then I send here the product, and the second distillation where you cut the head and the taste.
Yeah.
So the know-how is in the second distillation. So you make your rum.
Yeah, you're still mostly.
And this is very,
controlling
very simple. Now I see that a lot of, because molasses, now in UK there are some rums, because molasses you can ferment and distill everywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
But this is different.
This is different.
Imagine if Capovilla is younger. He can find the best sugarcane fields, make the first distillation there, and then Capovilla.
This is very unusual.
And it's a new concept.
So
but it's very easy.
To do two separate distillations in two different, not even in the same continent.
Yeah.
It's so unusual, and it's really.
But also in terms of cost, is it's better to do this than do the second there and then ship the bottles here. You know.
Yeah.
So also in terms of ecological cost is better. But it's very easy because is what happens in single malt, what happens in Capovilla distillation. But nobody think that in rum you can do this. So my simple idea, and then I put Haiti at same level of Monaco.
Yes, Monaco.
Not as charity.
And look at the bottle.
Because it's the best.
I mean, this is a fancy
And
Monaco. What's someone called from Monaco?
Monegasque.
Monegasque. Oh, I don't know.
Monegasque,
I've heard that before. This is a Monegasque.
Because now is the mother Mesccia, so it will be the mother. Because now we are aging in ex Marsala and ex Vermouth cask, and we become the Mesccia.
Okay.
That is the upgrading of a Mesccia.
Yeah.
And for me to put Haiti, not for charity, the best. The Monaco joined Haiti because in Haiti there is the best sugarcane.
I mean, you don't get much more different than Monaco and Haiti, right? Culturally, okay.
You understand?
The money and the wealth and the royalty and everything, and then you have this.
So the project Nomad and Mother Mesccia are a new border, you know, because because it's very simple.
Cross-border.
But you can make one distillation. I have a best raw material there, so I take the best sugarcane, and then the know-how. If I am Capovilla, I do the style like gin. Gin use a generic alcohol, but then become a German gin.
It's always a second distillation.
It's the Holstein that in Germany say this is German gin. So this is a Monaco rum.
Yeah.
But and this is nobody. So now I'm thinking. Excuse me, I finish. I'm thinking that could be an idea to make in Miami a distillery for Haiti, because Haiti have a lot of problem now of transport. Logistics is incredible. You wait 8 months, the customer closed. But perhaps also to develop a little bit more faster. Say, okay, we use the real sugarcane of Haiti. We make the first distillation, then we send to Miami. And in the Haitian community in Miami, we produce a real Haitian rum. Could be an idea, perhaps my next idea.
But it's like, I think what I love about it is it's treating the natural sugarcane resource that Haiti has, which, as we've said, is the best. It's not trying to export whole cane, which is a fruitless task. You know, it's going to go off. It's going to ferment. It's going to, you can't do that. You can't move cane across the continents like that in any kind of meaningful amount. So it's capturing what's good about that in fermentation and the first distillation. So then you have a product that is transportable. Okay.
Exactly, and transportable and can stay one year there.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you can finish that product wherever you like, and what you can do then is layer on that the skill of the distiller in whatever location it is, whether it's Monaco or elsewhere, because that second distillation requires more finesse and nuance than the first, right?
Exactly. And then a certain know-how. So if Capovilla, with this as simple idea, Capovilla can find the best fruit, the best sugarcane everywhere in the world, with Nomad, I can make the first distillation also if there is no electricity, nothing.
Yeah.
And then I send to Capovilla, and there is the knowledge, the savoir-faire, the know-how of Capovilla. Yes, my friend.
I think I want to end it there. And it's for very selfish reasons. It's because I hope this is not the last conversation we have like this.
So.
And I'm going to save something in the tank so that I have something.
You could not ask it. But I have many things to tell you for many days, but I agree with you.
Yeah. Luca Gargano,
Yes.
thank you so much, my friend. That was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, and I hope to come to Haiti with you.
Yeah, me too. Me too.